Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihare Jaya Kunja Vihare Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihare Jaya Kunja Vihare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribol Gaura Haribol Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Jai Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai Shri Radha Samasundar ki jai Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai Bhūr Premanande Hari 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 Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas, so many esteemed Vaishnavas, my seniors, my well-wishers, my inspiration. I beg for your mercy to be able to speak something that will inspire devotion in our hearts. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, chapter 25, entitled Krishna Lifts Govardhan Hill. We'll be reading from text 10 to text 13, and we can do each line together from 10, and then we'll repeat the whole verse at 13. Sthūṇā-sthūlā varṣa-dhārā muñcatsv abhreṣv abhīkṣṇaśaḥ jala-oghaiḥ plāvyamānā bhūr nādṛśyata natonnatam. So translation: as the clouds release torrents of rain as thick as massive columns, the earth was submerged in the flood, and high ground could no longer be distinguished from low. Text 11. Aty-āsārāti-vātena paśavo jāta-vepanāḥ gopa gopyascha sitata govindam sharanam yayu. The cows and other animals, shivering from the excessive rain and wind, and the cowherd men and ladies, pained by the cold, all approach Lord Govinda for shelter. 12. Shirasutam chakayena prachadya sarapiditaha vipamana bhagavata padamulam upayayu. Trembling from the distress brought about by the severe rainfall, and trying to cover their heads and calves with their own bodies, the cows approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga Natonnatam Gokulam Prabho Tratum arhasi devana Kupitat bhaktavatsala. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga Natonnatam Gokulam Prabho Tratum arhasi devana Kupitat bhaktavatsala. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga Natonnatam Gokulam Prabho Tratum arhasi devana Kupitat bhaktavatsala.
Krishna Krishna Mahabhava.
Vaishnavis.
Krishna Krishna Natonnatam Gokulam Prabhu
Krishna Krishna. Oh Krishna. Krishna. Mahabhaga. O all fortunate one. Twatnatam, whose master is yourself. Gokulam, the community of cows. Prabhu, O Lord. Tratumarhasi, kindly protect. Devat, from the demigod Indra. Naha, us. Kupitat, who is angry. Bhaktavatsala, O you who are very affectionate to your devotees. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Abhayacharya Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat. The cowherd men and women address the Lord. Krishna, Krishna. O most fortunate one. Please deliver the cows from the wrath of Indra. O Lord, you are so affectionate to your devotees. Please save us also. Purport. At the time of Lord Krishna's birth, Gagamuni had predicted, Anena Sarvadugani Yuyam Anjas Tarisyata. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 8th Chapter, Text 16. By His grace, you will easily cross beyond all difficulties. The residents of Vrindavan were confident that in such a great emergency, Lord Srinarayan would empower Krishna to protect them. They accepted Krishna as everything, and Krishna reciprocated their love. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langai tegrim Yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. It is very wonderful to be with all the devotees in Shri Vrindavan Dham. Generally, we are locked in somewhere on the piece of earth, trying to do some service, and most of the time feeling sometimes isolated, disconnected. And when we come to Shri Vrindavan Dham, then we see that we are part of this transcendental, global, interplanetary family. And we become very inspired by the association in the Holy Dham. We read about Krishna in the scriptures as we are reading this wonderful Leela of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Amazingly enough, we are actually in that very land where Krishna performed his pastimes. Now that is very special because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not someone who is easy to access, but to speak of being able to be in his very own place. So by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, the arrangement has been made that we can come to the land of Krishna and we can hear about Krishna, we can associate with the devotees, and this is a matchless gift. We read today, picking up from yesterday, His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami sort of led us into the mood of Indra. Lord Indra, being the king of heaven, he's an important man. He's in charge of the heavenly planets. And because of that position, he was getting worship from the residents of Vrindavan. Every year they were performing Indra Yagya. They would gather the best of the bhoga and prepare so many preparations and offer it to Indra. So Indra has become accustomed to this offering, and he waits every year for the time when his yagya will be performed. Just like the devotees, we eagerly wait for the time we can come to the holy dham during different festivals in the year. So it so happened that Krishna, with his silver tongue, he was able to convince his father, Nanda Maharaj, not to offer the yagya, not to offer to Indra this year. Krishna spoke many things. One of the things was that there should be no secrets kept amongst family members. Why are we performing this yagya? You let me know, is this something that we're doing out of tradition, or is this something coming from scripture? In this way, Krishna establishing the point that we should accept knowledge coming down in parampara. Vam parampara praptam imam rajasaya vidu sakalane amata yoga nasta parantapa. Because that is authorized. Many things become established as tradition or as fact simply because monkey see, monkey do. We see others do something and we sort of follow that. The famous story of the wedding. Everyone has come, they're in their Sunday best, and the brahmanas are chanting the mantras, the bride is being prepared, and the mother-in-law is busy overseeing the whole thing. She wants it to be auspicious, first class, no divorce, so everything must be baka. And then as she's moving around, then she sees a black cat. Oh, black cat, inauspicious. So immediately she asked for a grass basket. They brought her one, she took it, she put it over the cat. And so the daughter-in-law and her own daughters were watching this. When the next wedding came, then they were all looking for a black cat. We need a black cat. Why do we need a black cat? No, you don't understand. We need a black cat. Get us a basket and get us a black cat. So they needed to trap another cat there because they saw it being done, but they didn't understand why it was being done. And you can understand the parampara developed from there. We hope that such a parampara becomes broken or has been broken. So Krishna wants to establish knowledge must be received from the right authorities. Bhakti Chaitanya Swami really took us into Indra's anger. Picked up a word that Indra wanted to decimate the residents of Vrindavan. It is mentioned also today, in today's verse, that the wrath of Indra was going to befall the residents of Vrindavan. That's the text 13. They are praying, please deliver the cows from the wrath of Indra. So to try and kill Krishna is bizarre, but Indra attempted that. And if there's anything most sinful, would be such an attempt to try and kill Krishna. Of course, we understand Krishna is that hero that cannot be killed. No one's equal to him or above him. He is the supreme controller. So Indra was doomed to fail. So today I just want us to try and take ourselves into the scene in Vrindavan where these terrible clouds, the Samvataka clouds, they are reserved for destruction. They have appeared, as we heard, from the northern side, and it has become very dark. Terrible winds are blowing, howling everywhere. And it is said these clouds were dropping rain as thick as columns, Prabhu. Maharaj is mentioning as thick as elephants. Not just the elephants we see locally, but I guess some intergalactic type elephants. Huge clouds, huge columns of rain, lots of dust everywhere, and the residents are beginning to cry out. The cows are feeling distressed. The animals, they are shivering from the excessive rain and wind. And so the cowherd men and ladies, pained by such conditions, they approach Lord Govinda for shelter. It is interesting in the purport that it is mentioned that by the disciples that the residents of Vrindavan were confident that in such a great emergency, Lord Sri Narayan would empower Krishna to protect them. Yet we hear in the prayer, Krishna, Krishna, O most fortunate one, please deliver the cows from the wrath of Indra. O Lord, they address him as the Lord. So although Vrindavan is famous for being covered by the mood of sweetness, that the devotees, they forget Krishna's position as God, still that comes out of them when they are in danger. So Krishna, like any hero, wants to be needed. Krishna wants to save his devotees. He also has a service. He wants to do something. And so the greater the danger, then the greater the need for the devotees to be saved by Krishna. Although they consider him to be a village friend, just a clown, still, some may think that he has a special position. Why? Because it was mentioned by Garga Muni that Krishna, Anena Sarvadugani Yuyam Anjas Tarisyata, that this child, by his grace, you shall be delivered and you will be easily able to cross over all difficulties. So we can note this quality of Krishna, because the material world means difficulties. Is there anyone here who can say that they have not experienced any difficulties? The Bhagavatam says 2 people like that are happy. They have no difficulties. Oh, I remember you, Hare Krishna. You say you have not experienced any difficulties. Wonderful. We have to inquire later. What is your formula? Krishna describes this material world that from the lowest to the highest planet, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. Krishna says, Padam Padam Yad Vipadam Natesham. So he certifies that this place will give us difficulties. Of course, some special souls may get some special protection not to experience difficulties. So these difficulties are Krishna's blessing upon us. In South Africa, near important buildings, shopping malls, or government places, just like we can see here around this tamal tree, there's this embankment where people sit. So they will put spikes on the seat. The spikes are such that, just as we put for the pigeons sometimes, to discourage the pigeons from sitting there and making a home and enjoying life. So every time we see these spikes, we are reminded that this material world is not for us to relax and enjoy. So Krishna has put this ingredient of suffering, of distress, dissatisfaction, as a type of impetus for us to feel that we are not in the right place. I want to be happy, I want to be free from anxiety, but I'm going through anxiety at every step. Why? When we ask these questions, then the Lord who's in the heart will provide such answers. Then we get to understand, no, it's by design, and is meant to encourage you to look for that place without miseries. So when the miseries arose in Vrindavan, naturally the residents of Vrindavan, they call on Krishna. We are also meant to learn from the best of these devotees, to call on Krishna. Srila Prabhupada taught us the best type of chanting is when we chant like the child who is fully distressed and is in need of the mother. The mothers are expert, they know what type of cries the child is giving. I've seen sometimes the child is really crying and I'm getting a bit concerned. And the mother just doesn't even look at the child. And without that understanding or training, you may think this mother is neglectful. It's child abuse. But they have special powers to understand he's just trying to get attention. He's throwing a tantrum. There is no distress. But when the child is in distress, the mother will immediately respond. And so, two themes that I wanted us to consider. This term of bhakta-vatsala, that Krishna is most affectionate to his devotees. Affection, affection, affection. It is a very desired commodity. When we find it, we want to hold on to it. And when we are without it, we feel very vacant and dry. Life doesn't seem worth living. In one sense, we are affection junkies. It is the nature of the soul, anandamaya bhyasat. We are blissful by nature. We are created from a place of ananda. And therefore, we look for happiness. And we look for places and spaces where we feel the affection of those who are present. Without such affection, there would be no Hare Krishna movement. Srila Prabhupada would say that I have not paid these American and European boys and girls any money. Neither am I giving them any sort of first-class facility. In their countries, they're the best of the best. Yet, they are ready to do anything that I ask them to do. So why were the devotees giving so much surrender? Because they experienced the affection of Srila Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada saw every living being as the spirit soul, the part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore could extend affection to the soul. In this world, there are many levels of affection that we receive. We should be grateful. The governments may give some money, welfare, some affection. Like in Australia, we find homeless people. They may have like very thick mattresses on the side of the street. They have, packet of cigarettes and groceries. So they get money and they can live in a sort of luxurious way on the street. And, in South Africa, it's a different story. I think sometimes maybe I should tell the homeless there, if you can make it to Australia, you can be homeless on a double bed and have groceries. So some affection from the government. Let the citizens not struggle. Give them something. But as Srila Prabhupada said, if we want to save someone who is drowning, and then you jump in and you pull out the coat, I've saved him. If it's just a jacket, then that service is incomplete. You have to actually pull the man himself out of the water. So the affection that is not rescuing the actual individual, the soul, although has some value, it is only partial value. It is not complete value. So Srila Prabhupada is extending to all of us that type of affection where we can be extricated from the world of miseries. In Vrindavan, Krishna's main service is to exchange love with his devotees. And so we hear it's the month of Damodar, itidrik swalila abhi ananda kunde swagosham nimajantam akyapayantam. That Krishna, his lila is swagosham, is meant to just drown the inhabitants of Gokul in Ananda. Whenever they are surfacing from Ananda, Krishna wants to submerge them even more. So Indra has been used in one way to attack Vrindavan so that Krishna can reciprocate for a whole week with all the residents of Vrindavan who are in all different rasas with him. And when Krishna was under that hill, we heard from another speaker that he wasn't as angry with Indra as he was with Brahma, because Indra's mischief brought all the residents of Vrindavan together and he could spend time with them. And because that is his main service, to make them happy more and more, so inwardly he was pleased. This Indra's mischief has created such a nice opportunity for exchanges of love. But externally, he was angry because he is the master of everyone. Ekale Ishwara Krishna Arasabha Bhritya. Everyone is Krishna's servant. Krishna is the controller of everyone. Therefore, he has to discipline his servants, correct them. Whereas with Brahma, he took Krishna's friends from him to hide in some cave somewhere. So he created separation. The pastimes were flowing, Krishna was happy, but then when Brahma stole the boys, he created separation. Of course, for Krishna, there is nothing he cannot change into good fortune. We know he has expanded himself to spend a whole year with all the Vrajabasis. He spent time with the cows as the calves, as all the cowherd boys in the different homes. He increased all the love of the residents of Vrindavan. They felt greater love for their own kids like they feel for Krishna. So Krishna gave them that opportunity. So Krishna is Bhakta-vatsala, means he's the supreme friend. So supreme means he's God. And this godhood, it evokes a sense of submission. He is God, I should submit, and in this way, surrender. But he is supreme, he is God, I need to surrender. Still his friend. Friend brings about affection. And from affection, we want to act and appreciate the sweetness of our beloved. So Krishna is simultaneously God, and here he is the sweetest and dearest of friends, and also he is the most affectionate of all people. A shout out to the devotees of Bangladesh who live in Singapore. We hear of the culture of Mahaprabhu, how it is, the Vaishnav culture is full of loving exchanges. And when you experience those Vaishnavas who are steeped in this mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you feel that no one has ever loved you in your life. I was thinking, oh, my parents tried, but because the Vaishnavas, they see you for your highest potential. They'll see you as the best of devotees, and you are thinking, I'm such a low-class person. They think, no, Prabhu, you are preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya. How can we serve you? How can we serve you? And then you desire to become that type of Vaishnava who is worthy of the honor of these actual Vaishnavas. So in these exchanges of the devotees, each one feels that the other is very dear to Krishna and is serving Krishna the best, and they aspire to become just like that devotee. So as each one tries to improve, they become wonderful to experience. And then the other also sees, oh, you have become such a nice servant of Krishna. They become inspired. And so it's an eternal competition where the Vaishnavas, with their desire to please Krishna, are becoming improved and improved, more and more perfect ad infinitum. So not only is Krishna so sweet and a reservoir of this sweetness, also the devotees are full of that type of sweetness. So it is affection loka. We are in need of affection, we are starved of affection, and so in this world we may look for it even in the wrong persons. But if we turn our attention to Krishna, as we are forced by the Srimad Bhagavatam lovingly, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhave Gramindriya Sevon Mukehi Jivado Swayameva Spuratyada. Who can understand Krishna's name, his qualities, his activities with their blunt material senses? It's impossible. But one who begins service, and service with this tongue, Jivado, chanting the glories of Krishna, chanting the holy name of Krishna, then the tongue is purified. The consciousness is purified. And one starts to approach the actual existence of Krishna because of that purity that comes from being in contact with Krishna. Here they quoted 10:8:16. Anena savadugani. Krishna also says, Mat chitta savadugani. Mat prasadat tarisyasi. Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, then by my grace, you will cross over all the obstacles of material existence. It's an obstacle course, it's a maze. And no wonder we are amazed about our distresses, because we are in a maze. Who understood that this earth planet was just one out of innumerable planets on some 7th level of this universe, and that we are actually just this 1/10,000, the tip of the hair? We didn't know this. So how would we have figured out that we need to get out of this material world to go to the spiritual world? You could never guess it. Therefore, it was given to us through the hearing process. And Krishna says, Nashrosyasi vinangshati. If you don't hear me, then you will be lost. So this hearing of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan from the devotees of the Lord is the very cause of our good fortune and liberation. And when we try to repeat them, regardless of our qualification or lack of, we ourselves become engaged in service and we become purified. And then there's hope. And then we can rise slowly to become affectionate devotees. And we gain the capacity to receive the affection of Krishna. Many times devotees say, I think Krishna is against me. I don't know if you've ever heard anyone say that. That Krishna has his favorites. Of course, Krishna has his favorites. But Krishna also says that I have no particular enemies, and also I'm not particularly disposed to anyone. But Krishna is saying those who are friends, who come to me in friendship, then I extend friendship towards them. So it's a personal process. As we approach Krishna through hearing about him, then we become qualified to come with the proper attitude that inspires him to come towards us. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Pad had said, don't try to see Krishna, but act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you. The residents of Vrindavan, they are screaming, Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga, you are the most fortunate person. Please save us from the wrath of Indra. They are distressed. And they call out in full voice to Krishna. And Krishna has sworn to protect the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna's one quality is that he's a pleasing talker. When he was dealing with Kaliya, he had stomped on Kaliya's heads, and Kaliya was spitting blood, and he was starting to understand that life is nearing the end. Krishna then apologized to Kaliya. Look, I'm sorry that I had to deal with you in such a way, but look, I've made it my vow, my promise, to protect the residents of Vrindavan. And you are polluting the Yamuna and therefore putting my cows in danger. Brahmanya devaya go brahmanetacha. that Krishna, he values the brahmanas and the cows, but especially he values the cows. And so anyone who is putting the cows in distress, we can understand, is not pleasing to Krishna. No matter how we cut it. But because the masses of the people don't understand this, I tell you, closing story. My mother, she's a Catholic woman. When I got involved with this Krishna consciousness, she was worried. What happened? Why? She told me a few years later, oh, you were baptized, but you were not confirmed. Maybe that's what we didn't do right. Anyway, I've seen her over the years become such a fan of Krishna. She will type out Hare Krishna son, and she'll show off sometimes a melody that she likes. She says, I don't like these ones that are too fast. I grew up next to a place where there was a school for training witch doctors. So they also play drums in Africa. And so as Christians, they were always afraid that these drums is the way into becoming like a traditional healer. And they didn't want to go that path. So she sent, actually this morning, a picture. I had left at home Gopal Krishna. So Krishna is there with his flute and with a cow at the back. So like any mother, they're always trying to improve the house. It never ends. So she had some people changing the roofs. And she says, you know, I really made sure that I protected Krishna and this cow. And because there was so much furniture being moved around, it's like one of these class types of murtis. And I felt so happy that, oh, my mother is Go-Raksha, she's protecting the cows. And I wrote to her that, interestingly enough, we're discussing a pastime today, and by the arrangement of the devotees, I'll be speaking on how Krishna protected his cows. And I felt that it was Krishna's arrangement that somehow or the other, engaging also my mother in protecting him and his favorite animal, the cow. She also said that recently she was asked by the same workers, you know, what's going on with this cow here? And she said, I watched one of your YouTube videos where someone was asking, why in India do people worship cows? And so I'd given some response there. So she was happy that I was able to explain to them, you know, why the cow is important. So the masses of people, they don't know who Krishna is, what is dear to Krishna, so they have no chance to become extra pleasing to Krishna. So it is the duty of the Vaishnavas, the devotees, who find that their greatest pain is to see others suffering. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is a preaching movement, making it distinct from your general Sanatana Dharma, where everyone is peaceful to practice their process and let everyone do whatever they do. Ours is that we have to come into the lives of people who don't want us there. Almost like the Jehovah's Witnesses, nobody is, some are happy, but most people, they don't want to see them at their front step. But every time I meet them, I always give them my respects and thank them for coming out. Because you never know who needs to find Jehovah. So also, we don't know who is ready to find Krishna. So our movement is, we go out there and we tell people about this young boy who picks up a hill, and in some later date, they can come to this very place and they can go and circumambulate the same hill that Krishna lifted. It's a magical experience where we verify the theories that we are hearing in the scriptures, direct sense perception. In Vrindavan, we feel that Krishna is here. His Holiness Kadamba Swami said, we are all addicted to some sort of comforts. The nature of the body is that it gives us problems. he said, we can list probably well into the hundreds different aspects about Vrindavan that cause us distress, things that are troubling, that we don't like. But still, we come to Vrindavan. Why we come to Vrindavan? Because it is Krishna's place. And we can perceive the presence of Krishna. We can better appreciate the activities of Krishna. And we feel a particular affection for Krishna. And the distressful conditions which are external are Krishna's mercy so that we don't relax. Because imagine if this Vrindavan was, as we read in the Bhagavatam, one of our devotees, when he was about 9, grew up in a family of devotees. So he read Krishna book and he heard about Govardhan and how there were waterfalls of fruit juice and all sorts of wonderful peacocks and really paradise. And the parents brought him to Vrindavan. Hey, I want to go to Govardhan, I want to go to Govardhan. They took him there. He was hysterical. This is not Govardhan. Because he wanted to see all that beauty that is describing the Vrindavan that we cannot see with our mature eyes. So if we were seeing that in conditioned consciousness, then it would be a relaxation place, a spa, where we're just sipping drinks with umbrellas and we are chatting about other similar pretty places. So Krishna has put a bit of tapasya in here so that jiv jago. We are uncomfortable in the material world, but he's very close by that we can take shelter of him. And we can become like these residents of Vrindavan. So please, together may we call out Krishna's name. Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Mahabhaga. May that Lord Krishna hear our calls, and may we get the mercy of the devotees to call him with a more sincere heart, and that one of these fine days, when we call him, he will appear before us, and our lives will be more than glorious. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gaur Premanande. If there are any comments, corrections, chastisements. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We hear that if one offends a Vaishnava, one needs to seek forgiveness from that particular Vaishnava, from the pastimes of Amrish Maharaj and Chaitanya. However, here we see that although Indra committed the gravest of offense, he is not seeking forgiveness from Brajvasis, but is offering praise to Lord Krishna. I'm curious to know why.
So up ahead we will see Indra coming to beg forgiveness from Lord Krishna. And your question is, why didn't he approach the Brajvasis that he put in distress? Indra also consulted, I've created such a disturbance, I've created such an offense, what can I do to rectify this? And because Krishna is a lover of cows, he was advised, you take Surabhi and you put her in front of you and you go to Krishna and make your apology to him. If we look at it in a situation where at work, Krishna is the boss and Indra is one of his managers, department managers, and he's done some big mistake, and so he's looking at the line of command, and so he has to go to the big guy. But he's looking how to butter him up, how to soften him. And he didn't necessarily use the Vaishnav method, but he looked to go directly to where he has caused problems. We find that with ourselves, it's mentioned that we should beg forgiveness from the devotees who have offended, and sometimes we don't even know, because by one's very existence, one can be just an offense. Sometimes people just see you and they just are offended. And I want to apologize to any devotees who have offended just by existing. It's possible. We see Rupa Goswami is meditating and seeing the funny pastimes where Krishna lets Radharani get yanked up by a branch. He lowered it, she held to it, and he let go, and he's laughing, enjoying. And a Vaishnav happened to walk by who had a disability, had a bit of a peculiar walk. And he's smiling, appreciating the Leela, and the Vaishnav is thinking, oh, I thought he was an advanced soul and he's laughing at my disability. He was able to see that some offense was created because his meditation broke. But he's such a deep sadhu, at least he was pointed out something is wrong. In our case, sometimes you see devotees becoming really empowered in being offensive, up to websites and a whole empowerment how to offend. So we wonder how they are going to get rescued. But Krishna says he cast them into the species of abominable life. So some sort of rescue will come, but maybe it's first you have to go down before you come up. So we should follow as you have stated. Try to find out what Vaishnavi we've offended and beg forgiveness. Indra, he did something else. In this case, we shouldn't take him as acharya. That example is not the best. Hope that's okay, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Is the desire to see Krishna better than the desire to please and serve Krishna? Could you repeat the question?
Is the desire to see Krishna better than the desire to serve Krishna? Yeah, we mentioned earlier that the acharyas, they say, we should act in such a way, meaning try to serve Krishna, and so that Krishna wants to see us, rather than trying to see Krishna ourselves. Because also this eyeball, seeing the deity, seeing whatever we are seeing, but to actually see Krishna, Lord Brahma, who's the head of the Sampradaya, says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. There must be prema, love, to actually see Krishna. So first we want to practice to serve Krishna through the medium of his devotees, and that hopefully Krishna may want to see us. So better to not want to see Krishna, but hope Krishna wants to see you.
No, but if I just sit in one corner in Vrindavan and I don't act, okay, I just sit there, just relax and sit there, and my only desire is to see Krishna. What about that?
Try it, Prabhu. Krishna is very kind. He may reciprocate. Some people wanted to steal things from Krishna. And he came to Vrindavan because he heard that Krishna has all these jewels and opulence, and he's just walking around without any chaperone. And so that desire wasn't the right one to rob Krishna. But he came to Vrindavan and Krishna was kind. He appeared before them. They came. He's such a nice boy. They were able to interact with Krishna. By that interaction with Krishna, he's a Papa Vidam. He purifies anything and everyone who comes in contact with him. So any desire, we say, towards Krishna is very nice. But there's always gradations of how to properly desire, and the acharyas try to help us understand how to best position our desires in Krishna consciousness. Thank you. So thank you very much, dear devotees. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribo.